Anna, who's going. Oh, sorry, I've got the traditional hello, Louis. How are you? And Louis's got his head in his hoodie. You good? And so we're going to Albania. So Juliana, could you tell us a story or two? I'll leave it to you. I'll stay on for as long as I can, but if I disappear, don't worry. It's nothing you've done, Juliana.
Thank you, John. Have a fantastic trip. So, Greek.
Crack.
Everybody's muted.
Crack.
Oh, well, I can see you lip syncing and saying it anyway. Greek.
Crack. Crack.
What is the purpose of stories? Well, it just so happens that a very, very, very long time ago, before humans could even speak, animals invented stories first. And the very first animal to invent the first lie was a cat. This cat had traveled far and wide, and he had learned many things. And among the things that he had learned languages. Now, this cat in particular loved zebras. And he knew that if he learned to speak Zebraic, well, he could get the zebras to trust him. You see, this was a long time ago when cats were not the nice, fluffy creatures that we understand today. Well, we still have some of these big cats that even we would be afraid of. This cat came sneaking up on a zebra pack. And the zebra sniffed around. Was that a lion? No. Was that a panther? No. This was a normal cat, a little cat. Nothing to worry about. Yes, it had sharp claws. Yes, it had sharp teeth, but it was tiny. Just one kick of a zebra's hoof could send that cat flying off into the distance. And the cat knew this. But the cat came up to the zebras and said, well, hello, good morning, zebras. How are you doing? And the zebras, you're speaking our language. I said, yes, I am. I am a great admirer of your culture, said the cat. In fact, I have been studying. Would you mind coming and correcting some of the things that I have been looking at? And the zebra thought, well, what a well-mannered cat and how interesting. And this one zebra who had stayed to talk walked off with the cat and disappeared. Because the zebra was so trusting that once the cat had the zebra in his power, tied him up, slit its throat. And the cat feasted on zebra that night. Well, sometime later, he wanted some fresh zebra, and he snuck up on another zebra that was grazing peacefully. Zebra sniffed. Was that a lion? No. Was that a panther? No, that was just a cat. But the cat said, good morning, zebra. How are you doing? You look mightily beautiful today. And the zebra said, oh, you speak my language. I do, milady. In fact, I have memorized the most beautiful love poems. Would you like me to teach them to you? And so on. The cat drew the zebra away from the packet. Zebras kept disappearing over time, just vanishing into thin air. And a story started going around that there was the ghost of a lion haunting these lands because there were no lion paw prints, no danger smells in the air. The zebras were disappearing one after another. Now there was one zebra who loved to tell jokes. This zebra was always making things up and always coming up with new ideas. And this zebra may or may not have been the one who started the rumor of the ghost lion. But after a while, after everybody was thoroughly freaked out about the ghost lion, this jokester zebra started thinking, you know what would be really funny? Instead of a ghost lion, I know, I'm going to say that it's not a ghost lion. It was a mouse. A mouse that learned Zebraic and was able to sneak in unnoticed and nobody paid any attention to him. And this little harmless mouse just started talking to all the zebras, chatting them up, sweet talking them. And then when he got their guard down, that's when he pounced on them and tore them to pieces. Who would ever believe such a thing? Oh, we're gonna laugh so much. Imagine a mouse, a harmless creature coming and attacking. That's so funny. And as the zebra was walking along, suddenly he heard, well, good morning, Mr. Zebra. How are you doing? And he said, oh, you speak Zebraic. Why, yes, I do, said the cat. In fact, I have learned many things on my travels around the world. Would you like to see some of the treasures I have brought back? And the zebra stared at this harmless little creature. And perhaps it was because he'd been thinking about the story of the mouse. Well, it wasn't a mouse, it was a cat, but it was maybe there was something weird about this cat. The zebra stared at the cat's sharp teeth in two big smile and its slick oiled fur. And the zebra thought, and he kicked the cat as far as he could, and the cat landed on his head and was squashed to death. And that was the end of the cat. That was the end of the zebra's disappearances, and that is the purpose of storytelling. Now, I come from Colombia, a country where stories are still alive. You see, in Europe, mostly when people tell stories, they begin with long ago and far away. And these stories happened to a great, great, great grandmother or grandfather, or to some sort of ancestor that we never even knew of, or is not directly connected to us. And these stories are about witches and about little people and about magical and fantastical happenings. But in Colombia, you don't have to go that far. In Colombia, the stories are not long ago and far away. The stories are still about witches and little people and magical, fantastical happenings. But they're told that it happened 2 weeks ago or yesterday to my cousin, to my neighbor's uncle, or to me. Now, my country has been torn by war for most of my life, but some years ago, peace, the seeds of peace that had been planted throughout the country, many of these seeds planted by storytellers who gave their lives for these seeds to grow. Well, these seeds that had been planted by so many people around from one end of the country to the other started bearing fruit. And places that all my life had been completely isolated and cut off because they were run by illegal armed groups and were too dangerous to go to, they started opening up. I was young then. Well, I'm still kind of young, but I was a lot younger and more adventurous, and I decided, let's go. Let's go check these places out, the gardens of the gods, the river of 7 colors, the mountains that are hidden by the mists of time. Let's go to these places. And I grabbed a friend or sometimes took off on my own and stuck out my thumb and started hitchhiking from one end of the country to the other. And the deeper I went into the more isolated and remote parts of the country, places where people had never met somebody who spoke another language or who had ever been outside of their own village. The deeper I went into these places, the more stories I heard. Stories about brujas, the witches, about duendes, the little people who lived in the forest and who really didn't like to be seen. Stories about the shamans, the Madre del Agua, how they could enchant things by the riverside to get revenge on someone that they wanted to make disappear. And the more and more and more I heard these stories, I realized if I keep traveling like this, it's just a matter of time before I begin to believe in magic. This next story that I'm going to tell you comes from the mountains of Colombia, Greek. Not that long ago, to somebody who's a friend of a friend of a friend. This man lived in Antioquia, the mountainous regions where the mountains are rolling green hills, lush and beautiful. He had a farm, and as was typical in those days, not that long ago, and still in some of these places, this man was hardworking, honest, and had more children than he knew what to do with. Well, he and his wife, even though things were tight sometimes, they were happy. And they raised their children, and the older ones, they helped take care of the little ones, and the little ones ran around and played and made everybody laugh. And it was a good life until the soldiers came. And when the soldiers came, they burned things down, and they took some of the older boys, and they were never seen again. And they took the man's wife as well. And now he was left alone. He was left alone with the rest of his children, and they kept working hard, but their cows had been killed and their crops had been burned, and there was nothing to eat. The older boys who helped him so much, they were gone, and the younger children were still too little. The man went into the village and tried to get work, but there was no work to go around. Most people had left, but he had nowhere to go. He kept on trying, and he knew he had to do something. There's nothing that can break the heart of a parent more than coming home and having all his children saying, "Daddy, I'm hungry," and not having anything to give them. And so he was desperate, and desperate people do dangerous things. This man took his axe and he went into the forest. Oh, there were dangerous things in that forest, not the least of which, of course, were the armed rebels. But no. The reason everybody avoided this dark forest was because of La Bruja de la Nariz de Hierro, the witch with the iron nose. Stories were told about this terrible witch, how she would impale her victims, how she would strip the flesh from their bones, how she would eat human flesh and gnaw on their bones, and how she was the mother of the king of the demons. Desperate people do dangerous things. And the man carried his axe, and he went deeper and deeper and deeper into the forest, looking for some animal he could hunt, looking for some harvest, looking for some tree he could chop down and sell the wood. But the trees at the edge of the forest are craggy and no good for building houses. He had to go deeper in for that, right into the territory of the witches. Now, he had been walking for a few hours, and he had found nothing yet. It was silent, as if not even animals or birds would come around. But the cries of his children kept pushing him on and on and on. And then further ahead, those trees looked good. Those trees looked like how would he carry them back to the village? Well, at least he would cut them and he would remember how to get here, and he could carry some of the planks. He could sell some of that. He could get some of his friends and neighbors, those who still remained, to come carry it back with him. And he went further up, but then suddenly, what was that? Chicharrón? Sausages? Fried sausages? Oh, he hadn't smelled sausages in ages. Who would be cooking sausages out here in the middle of nowhere? Could he have stumbled perhaps upon a camp of the armed rebels? Well, he snuck up that smell, and as he got closer, he started smelling bean stew with warm rice as well, and smelled like fried plantain. Oh, a feast! Somebody was cooking up a whole feast, and he snuck up, carefully clutching his axe tightly. And there, in the middle of the forest, was this massive table with this pristine white tablecloth on top of it, and on top of the table were all the most exquisite dishes you could imagine. There were corn cakes dripping with cheese, there were fried sausages and fried plantain fritters, and there was bean stew and rice, and there was glasses of juice of all the exotic fruits, the berry juice and the lemonade and the mango juice and papayas, and there were avocados the size of your head, and oh, it looked so good. But you know what the weird thing was? There was nobody around. Now he knew that this could not possibly be a rebel encampment. The rebels didn't eat such good food, and they certainly wouldn't have this massive table. They couldn't carry it around everywhere. Perhaps this was the feast of the Madre Monte, the mother of the mountain, the nature goddess. She was the one who took care of the woodcutters and the people who came out into the forest who needed her. Perhaps this was a gift. He snuck up. Excuse me? Hello? Buenas? Anyone there? No answer. Well, he snuck up closer. Still didn't see anybody. And the food was still hot and fresh. He could see the steam rising up from it. The birds were going to devour this. The animals were going to come. The ants were going to eat this feast. Hello? He'd been walking for hours, and there was nobody close by to eat all of this. Madre Monte, if this is a gift, I appreciate it. Do I have permission to take some of this? Nobody said no. And so he snuck up and plucked one of those juicy, fat, dripping hot sausages. Immediately, as soon as he pulled it off the plate, another one popped into place. Just like that. As if he'd never taken anything, but he was still holding the sausage. This is magic. Could it be real? It smelled real. Oh, it tasted real too. Oh, it was so good. And he grabbed another one, poof, another sausage popped right up onto the plate. How is this? He grabbed a spoon, dug it into the beans, and immediately the beans filled back up as if he hadn't even touched them. It warmed his belly. Oh, he hadn't eaten in so long. He started cramming everything into his mouth as fast as he could. And it was as if he hadn't touched a thing. Everything was just as perfect and fresh and hot and wonderful as when he had first laid eyes upon it. Oh, my children are never going to be hungry. And he picked up the platter of sausages and poof, all the sausages disappeared. Oh no. I knew it was too good to be true. And he put the plate back down. Poof, all the sausages reappeared. Oh, could it be the table? Oh, but this table is too heavy. Well, never mind. I can bring my children out here. We can live out here. We can eat this. And I wonder if this table. He pulled up the tablecloth very carefully, sliding his hand under it to pick up the plate, and sure enough, the sausages remained on the plate. He picked the plate off the tablecloth, poof, sausages disappeared. Put it back, sausages reappeared. Well, that's easy. And he picked up the four corners of the tablecloth and wrapped up all that huge feast and threw it over his shoulder. Wait a minute. Flipped up the tablecloth under the table. What was that? It was a box of what? No, he'd seen this on TV at some point. This was like a pirate's treasure chest. Now, hours away from the sea. What would a pirate be doing here? This is ridiculous. Maybe let's set the tablecloth down, of course, set the axe down, pull out the chest, open it. $100 bills, stacks of them, just piled up, and emeralds. I don't know if you knew this, but Colombia has the highest quality emeralds in the entire world. And there were coins of gold as well, indigenous filigree, beautiful gold necklaces. Wow. The shimmering gold boat that seemed to have been crafted thousands of years ago. He picked it up very carefully. Poof, another one appeared. Oh, I'm going to be able to buy shoes for my children. I'm going to be able to send them to school. No, we're going to be able to move away. We're going to be able to move to the city. We'll be able to buy a house. I'll be able to hire a detective to go find my wife and my older sons. Oh, this is magnificent. This is magnificent. All right. Wow. He grabbed the axe, grabbed the tablecloth, and grabbed the chest. Instantly, the man dropped the tablecloth, the chest. He didn't drop the axe, though. No. It wasn't the Madre Monte. It was the witch. The witch with the iron nose. Oh, I know it's didn't be true. I know it's didn't be true. No. Senora, I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know this was yours. I called out. I asked. Here is your chest full of money. Here is your tablecloth full of food. As you can see, it seems untouched. Nothing is missing. I'm just gonna go. Oh, no. You, I can see on your fingers, they're all greasy from sausages. I can sniff your breath. You ate the beans. You ate my food, and now I will eat you. Please, you didn't understand. I'm all my children have left. Please, you I have all these children. I don't even know how many I've got left. They're back at the house all by themselves. They'll be orphans if you don't let me go. Please think of my children. I like children. And that's when the man realized the mistake that he'd made. Actually, he said, they're very, very, very skinny. They're very bony. They wouldn't. Oh, well, that's what we have this feast for, don't we, darling? I know you'll be a good boy and go bring them to me, won't you? Don't look so frightened. I told you I love children. Let's make a deal. I'll marry you, and I'll adopt your children, and we'll live as a big, happy family together. Now, the man man was no fool. He knew exactly what was happening, but he also knew that if you're given a choice, the choice between dying or probably dying, you go with the probably. And so he said, I would be honored. Of course, of course. How I cannot believe that you would choose me, just a humble woodcutter. I have nothing to my name, but I will be a good husband to you. Of course, your magnificence. I will bring you mushrooms every single day. I will comb your hair. I will water your poisonous plants. I will do whatever you ask me. I will shine and polish and sharpen your iron nose if you ask me to. Yes, just let me go and I'll get my children and I'll come right back. Oh, nonsense. No. You can't go alone. I'll send my son, the king of the demons, with you to bring them back. There are quite a few of them. You'll need some help carrying them all. The king of the demons. Oh, that's right. He'd forgotten that she was the mother of the king of the demons. Oh, no. Yes, a wonderful idea, he said. But don't you want to make preparations for the wedding? It's been a long time since I was married, and this must be a grand thing. I want your wedding to be perfect. She hadn't thought about it, but that sounds kind of fun. Yes, so that I'm going to call my crows, and they'll send out messages, and meanwhile, the woodcarver, all this time playing for time, desperately casting around, what could he do? What could he do? How could he get away? He saw this giant, bright red mushroom on the ground, and he thought she would probably like that better than a flower. And so he picked it up and he came up and he said, and of course, you must carry this as the bouquet. It suits you, my darling. And she said, oh, how nice. And he came up close to her and his hands were trembling. He was an honest man. He'd never done anything like this before, but desperate people do dangerous things. And the first and only thing that could occur to him was to pull out his axe. And as he offered her the mushroom, and she took it with his other hand, he grabbed his axe, and then he grabbed onto her long iron nose and Now, do any of you know how to kill a witch? I'm going to teach you. It's quite simple, but it's very important that you remember this. You can only kill a witch with an uneven number of blows. So he didn't know this, but fortunately, when she screeched, he freaked out and he ran. He dropped his axe and he ran. And that's a good thing. If he had stayed, and if he had tried to finish her off and given her a second blow, that second blow would have brought her back to life. So you always must give one blow and that's it. Or if it doesn't finish the job, then you have to give her two quick blows right after that, so that it'll be three. All right? Well, he ran. He didn't know that the seat of her magic was in her nose. And as she screeched out, calling for her son, the king of the demons, dead. Ah, the man thought he was safe, but no. Oh, the ground started to tremble. This king of the demons came out of the fiery pit. The ground opened up, a yawning mouth of a cave opened up out of nowhere, and the hairy, fiery, horrific beast came out of the entrails of the earth. There. And he started chasing after the man. Well, the man turned around and he saw this huge, hairy, horrible monster chasing after him. He was so scared that he dropped the nose. Not his nose, the witch's nose. He's still holding on to it. And as soon as he did, good thing he did, a giant forest of iron spikes burst up out of the ground, blocking the demon's path. Well, the man grabbed onto the chest full of money and the tablecloth full of food, and he can't run very fast when you're carrying so many things. That's why I travel light. But King of the Demons wasn't the King of the Demons for nothing. He bent all those iron spikes and chased after the man. The man turned back, seeing this huge, hairy, horrible monster catching up on him, gaining on him. He turned around and he was so terrified that he dropped the tablecloth. Tablecloth with all that wonderful, delicious food for his children. Oh well, as long as he had money, they could buy food. He still had the chest, they could still buy food. And it was a good thing that he dropped the tablecloth, because right there where he dropped it, a huge lake appeared out of nowhere. This magnificent lake that just drowned all the trees and covered half the forest, blocking the demon's path. Well, the man kept running, dragging the chest. But the King of the Demons was not the King of the Demons. No. Now, of course, he was a fiery creature. He wasn't about to swim, but he swallowed up the whole lake. And now he kept chasing after the man. And as the man turned around and saw this horrible hairy demon, well, he was pretty far away and he was coming pretty slowly, but he was still pretty big, and he was going to catch up to him sooner or later. Well, the man kept running as fast as he could. He was almost out of the forest, but by then, the King of the Demons was right on top of him. And the man turned around, he saw him, he saw how close he'd gone up, and he dropped the chest. And he almost went back, but no, he couldn't leave his kids alone. He couldn't. Better a father with no money than no money and no father. And so he kept on running, and it was a good thing that he left the chest, because there where the chest fell, a giant lake of fire burst up. I'm a demon. You think fire is going to stop me? There was magic fire that could burn even demons. Well, the demon was stopped. The man kept running. He made it out of the forest. He started crossing the up and down, up and down. He could see his house in the distance. But the King of the Demons was not the King of the Demons for nothing. And he spit out the entire lake that he had swallowed. He put out all the flames, and now, unencumbered by all that heavy water, he raced after the man. And when the man turned around and saw that huge, hairy, horrible demon right behind him, he didn't have anything left to drop. He'd already dropped his axe way back in the forest. What could he do? And he was almost. In fact, right there at the bottom of the hill was his house, and his children, who had been looking out the windows, waiting for him all day to come back, gave the alarm, "Daddy's home, Daddy's home." And all the little kids started poking their heads out of the windows and opening the door and run and looking out. And no, had led him right to them. And immediately he yelled at the demon, "Hey, over here!" And he started running in the opposite direction, trying to lead him away from his kids, but it was too. The demon had already zeroed in on the house and seen all the tiny little faces peeking out over the windows and children. The king of the demons loved children too. But the king of the demons completely forgot about the man and went straight towards the house. And as all the children were poking their heads out of the windows and and around the doors, all they could see was Daddy Demon, Daddy Demon, Daddy. They couldn't figure out what was happening. And besides, why was Daddy running so fast and going the wrong way? But the demon was coming straight towards them. Daddy Demon. And finally, the littlest one figured it out. And his eyes lit up and he screamed at the top of his lungs, and they all grabbed their forks and their knives and their little teeth sharp from hunger, and they burst out the door and they raced as fast as they could straight towards the demon that was coming straight towards them. The demon wasn't expecting that. And as the demon ran and the children ran, the demon started slowing down. And then he started backing up. And then he turned tail and started running, and the children forks to his hand behind, and they started ripping little pieces out. And the demon looked like this child-covered creature, this gigantic children throwing children off, but the kids would jump back up and race and throw themselves on him, and the demons kept running harder, ripping them off, ripping chunks of hairy hide off as well, throwing them back until finally only the littlest ones just finding out to rip them off right at the edge of the forest. A gigantic pit opened up. The demon leapt down inside, the ground covered up again, and the demon went back to hell. Now, this story has two endings, a happy ending and a sad ending. The sad ending is that the father came back to his children with no tablecloth full of magic food, no chest full of magic money, and in fact, not even an axe, which was the only thing he had left to try to make any money. And desperate people do dangerous things. And finally, even though this was the last thing he wanted, he turned to crime. But since, of course, he was an honest man, he wasn't very good at crime, and he got caught very quickly and thrown in jail, and all of his children starved to death. The happy ending, however, was that not a single one of them went to hell. Because when the demons saw these kids, they're like, oh no, no. And they barricaded all the doors and they said no. And from then on, not a single child ever went to hell. No matter how bad he'd been or anything like that. Sometimes even teenagers would show up saying, yeah, my mom said, I don't care what your mom says. Oh, the demons would be right there at the door waiting. How old are you? Are you under 18? Get out of here. Go back up to heaven where you belong. But my teacher said I was a bad boy. And you're not welcome here. Shoot. Since then, the devil has been so afraid of children that not a single one has been let inside or past the gates of hell. That's the happy ending. And that's the good thing that came of this. The children have to go straight to heaven. None of them will go to hell. The devil is so terrified of children, especially if they're poor children, because you can be absolutely sure that they'll be hungry.
Brilliant. What brilliant. A bit in and out on my part. I was going through tunnels, but a fantastic evening. Thank you. Big round of applause for Juliana Murray.
Thank you so much for listening. I'm looking forward to seeing some of you in person soon.
And we're looking forward to seeing you in Marrakesh. But I think my beard is visible. I'm walking in the dark at the moment. So Juliana's coming to Marrakesh International Storytelling Festival. Of course, all the cars are starting to come past me at the moment, blocking out the noise. So what have we got coming up? Sunday, 7 o'clock, we've got UK times. We've got the question and answer Q&A on the festival for anyone come to the festival. Tuesday, 5 o'clock, UK time. So 5 o'clock, that's our young international tellers. And